Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. Hope you've all had a really good week. Today I'm just going to spend a little bit of time talking to you about the planning that I'm doing for the next month. I think sometimes you can get to September and it almost seems like it's a bit too late to start planting a garden, but it really isn't. There is actually still a decent amount of time left to get some crops in, as long as you are really mindful of the frost dates and about the types of things that you want to grow. So I thought it'd be a great opportunity just to have a quick chat with you about what I'm going to be sowing in September for growing on through the autumn months. For me, the main aim behind starting planting at this point in time is about wanting to make sure that I've actually got salad veg throughout winter. Now, all the crops that I'm going through today, they're not all winter hardy. And as I've mentioned in a previous video, I am going to be creating a cloche for some of them to help protect them from the worst of the cold and also the wind when it gets later on in the winter. So really like from November onwards, when it'll be really rainy, a lot of wind. But what you can do with lots of these vegetables that I'm going to go through today is actually grow them indoors if you've got space. So if you are blessed enough to have a some sort of small grow house or a veg truck or a greenhouse, you can do it, but you could also do it if you've just got a sunny windowsill. I think you just need to be aware, if you're using a windowsill, you probably will need to, one, regularly turn your containers so that they get like an equal amount of sunlight on both sides. Make sure you water regularly if you're using containers, because they do tend to dry out. And also just realise it might take slightly longer for some of them to grow, but they'll be really well protected inside. Now, most of the veg that I'm gonna start sowing, I am actually going to sow outside. And do forgive me for looking down, it's just because like the stuff's on the table. So I've got my cup of tea with me and we'll get into it. So I'm starting with some green veg. And one of the things that I am gonna sow is some kale. This is Nero di Toscana. Now I have large kale leaves in the allotment at the moment. They're absolutely massive and they're really lovely. But there's not enough time to grow a kale plant of that same size, you know, one that's going to grow tall through winter. But there is enough time to grow kale if you would like it for salad. So effectively, I'm just sort of growing it as baby greens. And because I'm doing that, I am actually going to sow it quite closely together, because I'm going to be picking the baby leaves off it. I don't need it to get massive. I mean, kale's one of those great vegetables where you don't really need to wait an excessively long period of time before you can start harvesting it. If you pick the leaves from the bottom, it will keep growing at the top. As long as you don't pull out the growing tip, it'll just keep going. And the leaves are actually a little bit sweeter when you get them earlier, so I'm going to put that in. I'm also finally going to sow some spinach. Now this is a variety called Matador, which has quite flat leaves. And I did try to grow it earlier in the season, right at the beginning of spring, and it bolted before it got anywhere near to going out into the ground because it was just too warm. Technically, spinach is a spring and autumn growing vegetable, and it is a vegetable that I love. I grow perpetual spinach all year round, which is a leaf beet, so it's actually related to beetroot. And I put that in smoothies in the mornings in particular, which is why I grow it all year round here at home. But it has a slightly different flavour to normal spinach. Normal spinach I actually think is a little bit stronger in flavour, but which I prefer, but I just couldn't get it to grow earlier in the year. It was really, really warm. And I think they got to about like maybe this big before they started flowering. So they didn't even get out into the garden or the allotment. So I'm hoping that if I put them in now, because it has started to get cooler, particularly in the evenings, that it should really start to thrive in the current conditions, which would be great, because I really do like proper spinach and it'd be great to have some. And again, it's really good for the salads. It should last through most of the winter if covered, but if it gets very, very cold, it's quite likely to disappear and die off. It's okay. The next thing I'm growing is a range of mustards. Now I picked up these two little packets of mustard greens. They're both Oriental mixed mustard salads. So they're like a cut and come again option for salad greens. Not everyone likes mustards because they can be quite spicy. So if you don't, if you're not keen on like a spicy leaf in your like lettuce mix, then mustards are probably not for you. What I would say is that actually when you grow them in the autumn, they are not as spicy as when you grow them in spring and the start of summer because the weather is warmer, the spice increases. So in the autumn and winter, they're actually a bit better to grow because they are not quite as sort of pungent in their flavour. I wouldn't normally have a mixed salad of mustards with no other greens because it would be a bit too spicy. But it's good if you can mix it with other things. So these packets have in them, this one's got red giant, red frills, green frills and peso. And the other one has pak choy greens, mizuna mabuna, tatsoi and a salad rocket called Serrata in it as well. Now, I am actually growing full-size pak choys as well at the allotment at the moment. They are not my easiest thing to grow, not because they don't grow well. Actually, pak choy must be one of the easiest greens to grow. Like you throw it in, it'll just pop up and happily grow away. The problem that I'm having at the minute is with slugs. So I like pak choy, but as it turns out, all slugs and snails also really, really love pak choy. So I've put in a slug trap at the allotment, which in fact I will go and check later. And I'm hoping that that will mean that we've got a little bit more chance of actually getting some full grown pak choy plants because I've lost probably 4 already, I think. I've sowed about maybe 10 of them and I must have lost 4 already because like the new growth has just been nibbled away in like record breaking time. So I'm hoping that I can save some of them. If I can't, I'll probably pop a glass cloche over them, or plastic. You can't have glass at the allotment, but a plastic cloche over them just to protect them in the meantime until they get a bit bigger. Once the plants are larger, they're a bit more robust from things like slug attacks, but it is a bit annoying. But either way, I'm going to grow some greens as well in the next couple of weeks. I'll probably put those in at the end of the week, but I will sow those mustards directly. I'm not going to put them in modular trays inside. I'm actually going to sow them directly in the ground. Okay, so the next set of things that I am going to be sowing, I've talked about before, and they're the things that I'm sowing under the cloche that I'm going to build, which you'll probably see in a week or so's time. And so I picked up some seeds from the Real Seeds company. So I've got some Golden Frills salad mustard. And the reason I picked this one up is actually because I couldn't find it in any of those mustard mixes. I'm not really sure why, but I couldn't find it. I'm growing some corn salad or lamb's lettuce, which is super tasty and really, really hardy. So that should last really well. It does have quite tiny leaves, so but it's, it's still tasty to eat. And I'm also growing some land cress and some winter purslane. I've not grown winter purslane before, but everybody that I've spoken to that's grown it has said it's really tasty and super easy to grow. So we will see if that's true. I'm not certain yet whether or not I'm going to direct sow those seeds at the allotment, just because direct sowing, it's not that it doesn't work as such, it's just that the pest pressure can be quite high. The allotment has so many pigeons that loads of times they will pick they'll pick seedlings really, really quickly before they have a chance to start off. So I can only really sow them if I'm sowing them under netting or some sort of a cloche, or those, the metal cloches that I have at the allotment. And I probably don't actually have enough of those at the moment to also sow these in the ground. So I might need to sow them undercover. So sow them at home in modular trays and then transplant them. They will all transplant fine. So I can do that, but I'm just going to play it by ear really and see how it goes. The other thing that I'm going to be sowing in September is radishes, actually. So 2 different types of radishes. The first one is a cherry bell radish, which these little red ones, which you've probably seen loads. You get them in the supermarkets and things. I have to say, whilst they grow really easy, mine never look like the ones on the packet. They're never perfectly round, but they taste lovely. So I really like them. I'm probably the only person in our family that actually really likes radishes, but you know, it's my allotment, so I get to choose to put the things in that I like. Everybody else will eat the rest of the salads, but they're not keen on radishes. So I won't do loads of them because I don't want to be inundated. And what I'll probably do is stagger the sowings of them a little bit because they come up pretty quickly and they're ready within sort of 4 to 5 weeks of sowing them, even at this time of year. I'll probably just sow a little row, wait a week, sow another row, wait a week, and do it like that so that I don't end up with loads ready at the same time, so that I don't have a glut, although I could always give them away. And then the last thing that I'm sowing is a different radish called Mooley, which is a long white radish. It grows to about 30 centimetres and will take a little bit longer, quite a bit longer actually, to grow, probably about 8 weeks or so, 8 to 10 weeks. And is a winter radish. Now, one of the reasons I'm growing it is because supposedly you can actually leave them in the ground over winter. I'm not sure whether or not that will work, but I figured give it a go because I've got quite a bit of space at the allotment anyway, and space that's not being used. You know, we've got things that we've pulled out, particularly on the second part of the of plot 15 where I help out. There's actually loads of space there with things that are coming out and nothing new going in. So I figured I'd put some of those in as well and we'll see how that goes. So yeah, that is what I am planning to do for September. And this is probably the last sowing of the year that I'm going to do. So I'm going to try at least and sow probably a bit more than I would do usually. I do have a tendency to kind of undersow, like I just don't plant enough things and so it won't last me long enough. So I'm going to try and be a bit more intentional about ensuring that I plant plenty of new things, so sow quite a lot of seed, so that even if that means that I don't put all of them out in the ground or I've got to thin some, that I've still got enough left to keep us going through until sort of, well, the beginning of spring when some of the brassicas will still be going. But yeah, I'm just going to see how it goes. So yeah, that's what I'm sowing in September. Do let me know what you are sowing in September in your gardens or allotments, whether that is sowing inside, whether you're putting stuff outside like me. Do let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. And if you've got some good ideas of other things that I've still got time for to put in the ground, then please do let me know. And if you'd like to continue supporting my channel, please do like my videos and also subscribe. And if you hit that notification bell, then you'll get a notification when the next video is out. So have a brilliant day and I'll see you all soon. Take care. Bye bye.